I'm here today to talk about Weapons of Math Destruction by Cathy O'Neil. According to Cathy O'Neil's blog, Math Babe, she originally got her PhD in math from Harvard and then went on to work in finance until the market crash of 2008 when she switched to big data. She now works as a data scientist and an algorithm auditor at her company Orca. The main topic of her book is weapons of math destruction and how they affect society. According to her book, there are three main attributes that categorize a weapon of math destruction: opacity, scale, and damage. By opacity, she means that you cannot see what causes an algorithm to make a specific decision or what goes into the decision making. Scale is simple. It affects a lot of people, from thousands to even millions of people. And then damage. It negatively affects the people, some subset of the people that it works on. In the book, she compares weapons of math destruction to the stop and frisk policy that used to be instituted. Although it does do some good, it catches people who say we're going to commit a crime. It also does a lot of harm and negatively affects certain demographics. It also creates a feedback loop. As police officers say stop and frisk African Americans more often, they'll find more African Americans who committed crimes. This will reinforce their bias that African Americans should be stopped more. She then compares the legal system with weapons of math destruction. Whereas the legal system focuses on fairness, weapons of math destruction focus on efficiency. Stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional, even though it may have stopped crime, because it was unfair. Another point she made is that the legal system insists on innocent until proven guilty, although that may let criminals go when they are actually guilty. Weapons of math destruction, on the other hand, only focus on the bottom line, lowering the cost function that they work on, such as decreasing costs and increasing revenue. She then brings up that automated systems cannot adjust for fairness. Although this is not always true, in many cases it is. Whereas humans may be more outright biased, their decision making can evolve more easily. Social changes can put pressures on them to make less biased decisions, whereas that is harder to do once an algorithm is trained and set into stone and then released onto the market. Later on in the book, she gives some examples of weapons of math destruction at work. Some of the most terrifying ones, in my opinion, were about Facebook. Almost everyone uses Facebook nowadays. And Facebook ran a study in 2012 by altering what showed up on the news feed and adding the little box at the top that showed your friends who voted. They increased voter turnout by an estimated 34,000 people. To put that in perspective, in 2000, George W. Bush won the election by a mere 537 votes. Now, if they had a hidden agenda regarding the political system, they could easily target that to people who were more likely to vote for the candidate they support. Luckily, it does not seem that they did that, but there is the potential for that. And then, in the most recent election, an estimated 126 million Facebook users, which is about half the population of the US, were exposed to Russian ads meant to influence the election, according to the New York Times. Although this did not have the same effect as Facebook's study, it was massively widespread, affecting millions of voters and maybe affecting who they chose to vote for. Another study Facebook ran found that by altering the number of positive and negative posts on someone's news feed, they could alter people's moods. This was all done through algorithm. There was no human auditing of, oh, this post is a negative post, this is a positive post. It was all done automatically by algorithm, and it changed how people felt. Another point she brings up is we won't know what tribe we're in for the algorithm. We don't know if we're one of the groups that they want to feel worse or better. We don't know if we're one of the groups that is more likely to be arrested or be charged higher insurance rates. And as time goes on, as more data is available and processed faster and faster, that's just going to get worse. She then brings up how many of these algorithms work together to affect certain demographics and how they feed back into each other and make things worse. For example, poor people are more likely to have worse credit and live near other poor people in poor neighborhoods. Because they live in a poor area, they'll then be more likely to be shown predatory ads for less than ideal loans with high interest rates and for-profit schools, which are another weapon of math destruction she talks about in the book. And then, because they're in a poorer neighborhood, their neighborhood is more likely to be selected to be patrolled by police, which means more people in those neighborhoods will be arrested. Because there's a higher arrest rate, people in that zip code will then receive higher insurance rates, giving them less money and worsening their credit score. And this feeds back into that loop and keeps making it worse if nothing is done about it. She also compares weapons of math destruction to homophobia in the workplace. Companies found that by providing benefits to same-sex partners, like they would for straight couples, they could hire more good workers and retain those workers. This helped them keep up with the industry and raise their bottom line. Weapons of math destruction, on the other hand, already raise the bottom line. Improving fairness will not raise the bottom line. So there is no inherent economic benefit for companies to swear off weapons of math destruction or to make sure that their algorithms are audited for fairness. This has to be an outside force, either from society or regulations. Towards the end, it gets a bit less depressing, and she focuses on what good is being done with data. She talks about something known as Data's Hippocratic Oath, created by two financial engineers, Emmanuel Derman and Paul Wilmot, after the market crash of 2008. The main principles are: acknowledge that the world does not follow your equations. Use your algorithms boldly, but don't be overimpressed. Never sacrifice reality for elegance without explanation. Make explicit your assumptions and oversights, and make sure those who are affected by your algorithm know. And acknowledge that your model may have enormous effects on society and the economy beyond your comprehension. If this is something that everyone who implemented algorithms that affected people worked by, we would have a lot less weapons of math destruction today, but it is not. Overall, the book is a great survey of weapons of math destruction and how they are used in society today, who they affect, and how they work. It's a book I'd highly recommend everyone read, whether it's for this class or not. She uses ethos, logos, and pathos in her book. With ethos, she works in big data, and she's done a lot of research. This is what her livelihood is based on. As for logos, she logically explains how this occurs and what it leads to. For pathos, she talks about specific examples of how people are affected by these algorithms, how perhaps one man can't get a job because of mental illness, or how one neighborhood receives more police patrols. She's also very on top of things with Kairos. This is a very timely book, as big data becomes more and more prevalent and more companies are using it without fully knowing what do. As for Tapos, throughout the book, she sticks with the theme of weapons of math destruction and how they affect society. As I said, all in all, it's a great book. It's not too technical. You don't need a degree in math or computer science to understand it. And it's something that will affect your life. Thank you.